Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is taking some major heat from both sides of the political aisle after accusing the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, of taking donations from Jeffrey Epstein. Well, there's a problem with that. It was the wrong Jeffrey Epstein. And the worst part of it all, Congresswoman Crockett tried defending herself, and it didn't go well. So here she is, bragging on the House floor that her team managed to uncover, by Googling, not even AI, Republican donation money linked to Jeffrey Epstein. Watch.
Folks who also took money from somebody named Jeffrey Epstein, as I had my team dig in very quickly: Mitt Romney, the NRCC, Lee Zeldin, George Bush.
They Google. Okay. Zeldin put her on blast on X. He said, yes, Crockett, a physician named Dr. Jeffrey Epstein, who was a totally different person than the other Jeffrey Epstein, donated to a prior campaign of mine. No relation, you genius. He used another word there, too. So CNN tried confronting the Texas Congresswoman to ask if she wanted to correct the record over those accusations that were completely wrong. Here's what she did.
Do you want to correct the record on the people that
Listen, I never said that it was that Jeffrey Epstein. Just so that people understand, when you make a donation, your picture is not there. And because they decided to spring this on us in real time, I wanted the Republicans to think about what could potentially happen, because I knew that they didn't even try to go through the FEC. So my team, what they did is they Googled. And that is specifically why I said a Jeffrey Epstein. Unlike Republicans, I at least don't go out and just tell lies.
Oh, but maybe you do, because here's where it didn't stop. The Texas Democrat then went on to defend her Democrat colleague, Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, who's under major scrutiny as well for texting the original Jeffrey Epstein during a 2019 House hearing on President Trump. She was deposing Michael Cohen at the time, Trump's former attorney. Crockett seems to believe Plaskett did nothing wrong.
Stacey didn't initiate that chain. Jeffrey initiated that chain, and she took the information.
Do you think that was inappropriate? I mean, would you text with someone who is a registered sex offender?
I mean, the Republicans are constantly texting with a 34-count convicted felon. So if it's okay for them to text him at any point in time, then I'm not going to say that that's right or wrong.
So, Emily, I want to go back to the previous for just a second. The donations actually came after the suicide death of Jeffrey Epstein, who was in jail. So there's no way that that money could have come from him, because he was dead. So it was the Dr. Jeffrey Epstein. I mean, you can't even make it up.
No, and may I say that this is an unfortunate reflection, I think, an illustration of the knee-jerk, soundbite-seeking sort of strategy that we see far too often from the left, that we see a gotcha moment in the waiting. Everyone's attempts to sort of embarrass someone or get that clickbait, get the dopamine rush, get the gotcha. But the reality is that a little bit of actual diligence would have worked wonders. And we are held to that standard here at work when we look things up. We do not just Google something and then report on it. And what happened to that standard of diligence and thoroughness and accuracy that used to be, I think, prevalent on the Hill and now has absolutely been eradicated? And the final sort of travesty about this that I see is that the correction will go a lot slower and a lot shorter than the actual accusation will. So Lee Zeldin knows, and everyone knows, how absolutely upfront and upstanding his supporters have been. But unfortunately, this accusation, I'm sure, will remain festered and fomenting among the left for quite some time.
Well, and that's the very reason, Benjamin, that critics of Crockett have said this could have been strategy on her part. Because she knows, as Emily has pointed out, people aren't going to dig in and look for the fact that maybe she might have been wrong. They might not even hear a suggestion of it. And she knows that that will float, that will stick out there for a while, and people may believe it.
Yeah, it is character assassination. And, you know, you imagine where people on the left are getting their news from, and they're going to see that clip. That's what they're going to see. And I imagine many of them won't go any further. And that is going to hold. And I think it's really dangerous that someone is standing up, a politician is using 20 minutes of her time to research something that is so essential. You know, we're journalists, and we double-check, we triple-check. We wouldn't say anything. Her excuse was, well, I only had 20 minutes. That is not an excuse. If you don't know by the time something's going live, You don't say it. You keep it to yourself. So just disappointing to see that.
Yeah, and the timing of the money, Arthel, like not to have known that the person that she was saying gave this money and blah, 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 wasn't living.
You know, listen, you're right, and you guys are all right, that you have to be diligent about getting your information correct. And too many people are living in silos. And we all know that this particular topic is a high-octane political subject with a lot of flame throwing on both sides. Many people, high-powered people, are going to get burned in this process. But let's all hope, y'all, that in spite of all the gaslighting that's out there, that in the end, the victims rise from the ashes.
Kayleigh.
Yeah, it should be about the victims, and they're going to get that transparency that they deserve. Jasmine Crockett has been floated as someone who should be the spokesperson of the Democratic Party. I've heard credible messengers, influencers say that. What I hear when I hear her excuse about the timing of the Googling, et cetera, is I didn't have time to do my research. I didn't have time to get my facts together. So I just threw out an accusation, a wild accusation with reckless disregard for the truth. That's what I hear. It's defamatory, what she did, not putting in the research. It was reckless disregard for the truth. She says, well, when you look at the FEC report, they don't have pictures. Well, they have words. Well, let me tell you some of the words that they have on the FEC report. Lee Zeldin pointed this out. Some of the words that were on the FEC report that her team would have looked at clearly denotes that this individual was a physician, so it would have said his occupation. Doesn't take much research to figure out that the notorious Jeffrey Epstein was not a physician. It also notes, to your point, that the date of the donation came after he died. So there are two facts right there in text for her staff that would refute the fact that this is the Jeffrey Epstein. This doesn't surprise me. She also got her facts wrong last week. A CNN host, to their credit, pressed her because there was this email where a name was redacted of a victim. It was used to suggest that President Trump had done something nefarious. The name that had been redacted was Virginia Giuffre, who has said repeatedly when she was alive, Donald Trump did nothing wrong, but the name was redacted. And Jasmine Crockett said this about the redaction. She's on CNN. She says, I don't know why they would redact someone's name who's deceased. They insinuating it's Republicans.
Whoa.
The CNN host pressed back and goes, the Democrats did it, Jasmine. She's gotten her facts wrong more than once. This is who you want for the spokesperson of the Democratic Party. By all means, good luck. Let's have at it.
Let's just chat about that for a second, Benjamin. I mean, they do need somebody at the top, and they're looking generationally for younger people in the Democrats. Are we going to likely see a situation where these people rise and they learn on the job?
And what's worrying is that they are more concerned with smearing someone else than they are on proper debate. That's what the politicians of the future should be looking at. They should be debating the issues. That's the last thing they're doing right now. They're just pointing the finger with no factual, background. Rather than debating the issues we should be talking about, which are going to make the country better. That's gone by the side for them.
Well, and there are a lot of people who've not done the job before. There are people who go from Congress or from the House to the Senate. That reportedly is something she's thinking about doing. But the point you're making is bigger than whether or not you're learning on the job.
Yeah, look, there's something to be said that maybe someone who hasn't been involved with politics really understands the people, they understand the movement, but actually then I don't think they understand how the systems work. And you come in and you can break the whole system in doing so. I don't want to say Mamdani's name, for example, but we have no idea with his lack of political experience what might happen if you don't have that experience. You need to know how the system works, and you also have to understand the people, and you have to listen to the people. It's not about telling the people what you're going to do. It's about listening to the people. And all of those things are being lost with the current young generation, I think, of left-leaning politicians at the moment. And I think politics needs to get back to people who listen to their constituents, listen to the people who they represent.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.